Welcome to An Honorable Profession, a podcast giving America hope since 2018. I'm Ryan Coonerty. Along with Debbie Cox Bolton of the New Deal, I'm lucky enough to be your co-host. An Honorable Profession is a New Deal Leaders podcast. The New Deal is an organization that supports the next generation of American leaders. From attorneys generals to state senators to mayors to school board members, these are the people that are pushing policies and politics that will respond to climate change, rebuild our economy, address racial injustice, and restore our democracy. These are incredibly talented people who have dedicated themselves to public service when their country and their communities needed it the most. Check out newdealleaders.org to see what I'm talking about. Andy Schor is the two-term mayor of Lansing, Michigan. He's at ground zero of American politics and the debates we're having about manufacturing and jobs, housing, and more. Today's conversation is about the differences between the theories being espoused and the real-life consequences those policies create. And after our conversation, I'm here to tell you that the gap between theory and practice is a mile wide. As mayor, Andy is delivering services and opportunities to his community, even in tumultuous times. Listen to hear the important story of an American city caught in global economic upheaval and what it means for the rest of us. Enjoy. Lansing Mayor Andy Schor, welcome to An Honorable Profession.
Thank you for having me. I'm a fan. I love seeing this. I try and catch it, especially when several of my mayor friends are on. So it's an honor to be here with you.
Hey, thank you. I want to start by just asking, how are things in Lansing? It's a crazy time everywhere, and it must be especially crazy in a place that's a manufacturing hub like Lansing. How's your city right now?
Things are going really well. We came out of the pandemic in decent enough shape. ARPA, the Rescue Plan Act, certainly saved us and others. Was able to. We received $49 million, and we used half of that for repayment of our budget loss. Then we're able to put it into a variety of really cool things. We're able to get some fire trucks, give some money to community organizations, really do some cool economic development things, and it really was able to help us jumpstart kind of the next phase of Lansing. We are the state capital of Michigan. If your listeners and viewers haven't been here, you are always welcome. We have a wonderful Capitol Dome right behind me outside. You can't see it because of the light, but outside the window. And we're a wonderful city. We're 113,000 people at night, but we're a lot more than that during the day. But things are going well. We are seeing cranes in the air. We're seeing $2 to $3 billion in investment and development. We have, just in our southern downtown, we have a performing arts center that's being built. We have a 28-story tower which is being built, which will be the largest building in the city. And that's going to have housing in it. So housing, mixed income housing. We're going to have affordable housing being built. We have a new service center, and this is all just one small part. In our south side, we rehabbed an old school into 76 units of affordable housing. We're taking an old parking lot and we're building 40 units of housing for folks who are previously homeless. We're building a new city hall. We're building a new hotel. There's just a ton going on. At the same time, we're navigating all the other issues of public safety and gun violence, which is coming down, speeders on our streets, making sure that we can provide the things in our parks and, all the things that all your listeners, I'm sure, are dealing with in cities and communities across the nation. But it's going really well. I'm very positive right now, and Michigan is an incredible state with all four seasons, and we invite everyone to come to Lansing and enjoy and see the state capitol.
I love it. I guess I want to ask a little bit more because, Ezra Klein's out there talking about how Democrats have to have an abundance agenda. They have to build and grow. And sometimes that's easier said than done. So how did you create the political conditions and the regulatory conditions that are allowing this kind of growth in Lansing, and how is the community responding?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd say a lot of it is what we did, and some of it is luck. So it's funny that the abundance, I agree with that. And when I hear the abundance, I agree that we have to do more. We have a lot of people that want to live here. We have a lot of housing needs that we're trying to fill. At the same time, you have to make sure that it's growth for everyone. You know, you don't want to, we don't gentrify here. We're taking empty parking lots and we're taking areas that are being rehabbed, but we haven't moved anybody. But we still know that as costs go up and there's more housing, some prices will go up. We're trying to combat that. We're actually trying to lower prices by creating more housing, because if you have more product, then the demand will go down, the prices will go down. But we have to also provide for those of need. As you see more folks who are losing jobs or becoming homeless, we're the center city, so we have to make sure we're growing for everyone. But when I said, we got a little lucky coming out of the pandemic, Michigan flipped parties, really. Our legislature went from Republican to Democrat in both our Senate and House with a Democratic governor, and with that came different priorities. And then the lucky part came when the appropriations chairs for both the Senate and the House were from my city. And that's always a good thing. In Michigan, Detroit tends to get a lot of appropriation from the state. So does Grand Rapids. Lansing traditionally has not gotten a lot, but when both the appropriations chairs are from your city, they are interested in equity for our city. So we got about $130 million towards our city 2 years ago. And again, we use that to support housing. We use that to support amenities with our city. We're rehabbing an old pool. We rehabbed an old school into low-income housing. We're taking those and we are creating what the people are asking for. So the folks are generally pretty happy about it. Again, when you rebuild a new pool in a neighborhood, now you got somewhere for kids to swim on a really hot day. When you create new housing, you've got less folks who are wandering on the street, less services you have to provide with sheltering, because you've got the affordable housing. So we're really providing what the people want and what our necessity is, just like cities all over the country.
And tell us a little bit about how you found yourself getting to preside over this well-crafted policy and the luck at the same time. You've been in the state house, you've been a county commissioner and a mayor. Usually people go the other direction on the political ladder. Tell me about the experience and what it's been like serving at different levels of government like that.
It's been incredible. I just turned 50. I first got elected when I was 26, so it's weird to think that I've been doing it for quite some time. I came out of college and immediately wanted to work policy. I wanted to, you always hear, why can't you do something? Well, because it's not allowed under law. And I was always that guy who was like, well, why can't you just change the law? So I came out and I got immensely lucky, and I went to work for a local state senator. His name was Gary Peters. And for those who are your listeners, they recognize the name because he's now our United States senator. But I learned from him at a state level, and I decided to run for office again when I was 26. Ran for county commission. In Michigan, nobody knows what a county commissioner does. So it's like the best job in the world.
Having been a county supervisor, no one knows it anywhere.
That's right. And so it's the best job, right? Nobody knows what they complain about. And we did so much with health services and with sheriff's patrols and animal control. And so you were a county supervisor, the passions of animal control.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But I did that for 10 years. At the same time, I worked for an organization that I was an economic development specialist lobbying on behalf of cities. So I decided after 10 years, our state rep was termed out. I decided to take a run at the state house and try and be a lawmaker at the Capitol. And I won. And I did that for 5 years. And after I got reelected for my third term, I was about to be term limited out of office, go back and go into the private sector, do something else. And I had started having folks come to me and say, we like what you did in the legislature. I was very centrist Democrat, typical New Deal Democrat, someone who worked with both sides and get things done, which is why I'm a proud New Deal mayor. But I had folks come to me and say, we like what you did at the state capitol. And we really like you to run for mayor. And I gave it a lot of thought. And after a while, my attitude is always, you can yell and complain and talk about what's wrong, or you can try and get involved and do something about it. So I decided I would put my name in the hat. And I did. And then a week later, our sitting mayor decided he wasn't going to run for re-election. And I won. I won with 73% of the vote over a council member. And I've been mayor ever since. And I'm actually in the process of running for my third term. Filing deadline was 2 days ago. And so I'm running for my third term. And I really enjoy being mayor because you can get things done. You know, a legislator gets to vote on bills and it's very conceptual. But a mayor tells you which street's going to be fixed and which sidewalk's going to be fixed and how many police you have and where they're going to be and your EMTs and really it's direct to the people. And I know that because just about everywhere I go, people tell me that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for those out there who are like, oh, politicians, it's all the same job. These jobs are very, very different. Can you talk about maybe just briefly the pluses and minuses of being a mayor compared to being a state legislator or county commissioner or other jobs you've seen?
I loved being a state legislator. So anybody out there run for the state legislature. I did. I loved it. Again, you've got your end of the spectrum folks, your liberals and your MAGA Tea Partiers, and then you've kind of got your centrist folks. And I was always a moderate Democrat. So I always said there were 110 members of the state house and about 70 of us were in that middle. And that's how we passed Medicaid expansion, right? In my first 6 months, I partnered with several Republicans. We were in the minority, and I led the effort to pass Medicaid expansion. Gretchen Whitmer was the Senate minority leader, and I was in the minority in the House, and we worked with Governor Rick Snyder, Republican. And at the time I said, because of this work, 400,000 people are going to have health care, and that's huge. Turns out 1 million people in Michigan have health care. Again, that's a policy. I get to work with others, compromise, and get policy. It wasn't perfect, but we got passed. As mayor, it's very different. I'm not partisan. So while everybody in the world knows I'm a Democrat, I am not partisan. I don't work with 2 caucuses. I'm the executive, which is certainly very different than being a legislator. But I don't work with 2 caucuses. I have 8 council members, so I work with 8 caucuses. So it's very different. But as mayor, you can drive an agenda. And I assume in the majority, you can do that as well. I've never been in the majority in a legislative session in the state house. I was at the county. But you can drive an agenda. And it's cool to be able to say, here's my budget. You may change it, but here's my budget and here's what we can work on. Here's what we're spending our tax dollars on to grow our city. And then people get to judge whether it was done well or not at the ballot box. So it is very different, both of which I love. Being mayor is a lot more. When you're one of 110 members, people know you, but not as well. When you're the mayor, I'm going to lunch after this and I'm going to sit at the Soup Spoon Cafe and everyone's going to come up to me and say, hey, mayor. And most people are very nice and say, hey, mayor, we love what you're doing, or thanks for what you're doing. And some people will come up to you and say, mayor, man, our roads are awful and it's your fault. So I get them both. But it's, again, I can sit back and watch, or I can be part of the game, and I choose to be part of the game. And the citizens of Lansing want me to, and it's an honor. It is truly an honorable profession.
I love it. So, I mean, Michigan is the center of much of our politics and an indicator of much of our politics. What are you seeing on the ground right now in your state that will give us maybe some insights into what's going to happen in 2026, 2028? What's going on there?
So Michigan was like ground zero, right? We were one of those battleground states. I think every week I had a different surrogate come in on the Democratic side, and I know the Republicans had different surrogates coming in on the Republican side. So that was wild. Every week I come home and tell my wife what different celebrity I've met or important person I've met. I think there's some healthy frustration in Michigan right now. A lot of people chose to vote for President Trump, to vote for the Republican Party. Our congressional seat flipped. And I think there's a lot of frustration. I mean, you certainly have the ends of the spectrum who stake out their positions. The liberals are very upset with what's going on. But I think it's your average everyday person, your blue collar auto worker who is not seeing grocery prices come down, who is facing the prospect of layoff if these tariffs with Canada, who's been our longest trading partner, the longest undefended border. Now the possibility of seeing tariffs go up and costs because of Canada. I walked into my local coffee shop last week, young lady, small business owner, and she says to me, "I can't believe these tariffs, my prices are going to go up." And I said, "How are your prices going to go up? It's a coffee shop." She said, "The coffee beans are grown in Michigan. They're sent across to Canada for processing, and then they come back, so they're going to get tariffed twice." She can't charge that much more for a cup of coffee. I talked to the mayor of Windsor, right across the border in Canada, and he's like, Essex County, Canada, is the biggest greenhouse, one of the biggest greenhouse communities in the world. He said, "So your peppers are going to go up, and your tomatoes are going to go up, and your avocados are going to go up." Stuff like that nobody thought was going to happen in the election. I've heard from Democrats and independents and Republicans, folks who voted why they voted, and now you're seeing a healthy frustration from people who just don't understand. Why is the focus on taking over Greenland instead of bringing my grocery prices down, and how are these tariffs? I honestly think people understand when it comes to China, right? They know that China tariffs us, and I do think there's an understanding there. But when you talk about Mexico and Canada, there's just a lot of folks who are really confused on what's going on. So I think when you see kind of poll numbers go down nationally, Michigan is an example of that, because it's just that they're not seeing the change that they were promised, at least not yet.
Can you talk about, Michigan obviously and Lansing have a long history of manufacturing. Yeah. And I think one of the stated reasons supposedly for these tariffs is to create a ton of new manufacturing jobs. What does it look like to actually create manufacturing jobs in and around Michigan? And what do these tariffs do or don't do to that end?
Yeah, so to create, we saw it. We have a new battery plant, which is just about to come online. And that was a $2.7 billion investment, which is awesome, right? I'm really excited about it. So the argument on tariffs is if you increase the tariff, we make cars, right? We make cars in Michigan. We have two assembly plants. GM, we are GM people. You come to Lansing, you walk around, you're going to see GM cars. If you see a foreign car, it's a visitor. Definitely. But what does that mean? It means that a lot of those parts come in from Canada, and it's part of our kind of our fair trade. If you increase the tariff and the price of a car in Michigan goes up $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000, people are going to buy less cars. Price of car goes up, people buy less cars. They look at used cars and other things. We saw it during the pandemic when they couldn't get new cars. If less cars are bought, less cars are made. If less cars are made, then plants will reduce shifts. We love having 3 shifts right now. If a shift reduces, those people are laid off. These are UAW workers making a solid, good wage, and now they're laid off. If enough shifts are removed and there are enough layoffs, the plant closes. The argument from the pro-tariff people are, short-term pain, but then everything that's being outsourced to Canada is now going to be built in America. Well, who's got $2 to $3 billion to build that new assembly plant, to build that new plant? My concern is the prices are going to go up. Nothing's coming back. It's just going to cost that much more for the tariffs. The people are going to have to pay it, and you're going to have less cars sold, and we're going to have layoffs, and people are going to be out of a job. And it's a big concern that I have for manufacturing. We do a lot of advanced manufacturing here. Again, we're about to be making battery cells. We have a company that does food testing that is international, that was based here, called Neogen. We have a company that we make the anthrax vaccine here. So we have a biomedical company. And these are all getting parts and things from all over the place, from Mexico, from Canada. And when you increase that cost, again, it's gonna hurt jobs. It's gonna be more expensive, and it doesn't bring down prices.
And I mean, just to dive in a little bit, which is this battery plant. You saw this big investment in renewable energy technology and production, and just as these things come online, we're now watching, the incentives and the regulatory policy that would have encouraged adoption go away, which not only harms the environment but also harms the jobs that are being created and the opportunities of the future. Is that a worry as well? And how do Michiganders think about renewable energy and clean energy and all these other investments and the way we need to?
Yeah. So first, huge. If the Inflation Reduction Act is removed and these incentives to buy clean cars are removed, we're going to see a reduction. We're talking 1,700 jobs. We will see a reduction. Now, they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to decide, do they move to different kind of battery production? That's all kind of being worked out. But yeah, it creates a lot of uncertainty. In Michigan, again, I can't speak for everybody. There's certainly those who love renewables, those who don't believe in them. But I think for the most part, our folks believe, let people decide. Right? This is a free market argument. Let people decide what they want. Let's build them both and let people decide what they want. We can make renewable energy cars. Lansing Grand River plant was granted a $500 million grant from the federal government, in addition to GM putting in $1.2 billion to convert and build EV cars. Great. That's an option. Let's make them and see if people buy them. Lansing Delta Township plant sells internal combustion or ICE engines. We sell the Traverse. We sell the CT5. So let's provide and let's see what people buy. Now, again, because renewable energy is a dirty word to some people, they say get rid of the EV incentive, which that will change what we do. That it could reduce jobs at our Lansing Grand River plant. Again, they're looking to see, do we do PEV, which is a hybrid, or do we stick with the regular EV? They're looking at the business model based on what the federal government's going to provide. But it definitely changes things. It definitely creates uncertainty. Again, for everybody here, it's we'll make them all, and you get to choose what you want. We're not mandating you buy an EV car. We're saying buy a new car, and here are some options. You can buy the brand new Acadia. You can buy the brand new Traverse, which is internal combustion, or you can buy whatever the new EV car is, and then plug it in, and you have a battery powered car. So it's your choice.
Another obviously big change between the administrations is the relationship with cities. You're involved in the U.S. Conference of Mayors. We are watching cities trying to navigate as much uncertainty as the car industry is trying to navigate. What's that been like? And can you talk about some of the threats and impacts to the cities across the country?
I think we're still figuring it out. And I was in DC in January. I know New Deal had a big event, which is a lot of fun. I was in DC in January, and we're still figuring it out with the Biden administration. Even with the first Trump administration, we knew who our relationships were. We knew who to talk to. When I first got elected, Trump was president, and I remember we had long conversations with them about CDBG and other grant programs. With the Biden administration, we worked with them to pass ARPA. We worked with them to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. We worked with them. They had very aggressive intergovernmental relations. I think we're still figuring that out. The Trump administration has a woman who is a former mayor who is in charge of intergovernmental. She zoomed into our conference. They reached out. That was nice. But I do think there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of if there's going to be removal of many of these bipartisan infrastructure law or IRA programs before those dollars get on the street, it's negatively going to affect the infrastructure that many of us mayors want to fix. We pushed for infrastructure for years. We'd have Infrastructure Week under the Obama administration, under the first Trump administration, pushed for infrastructure week, and then the bipartisan infrastructure law passes. And now there's trillions of dollars to fix our roads, to fix our bridges, to fix our buildings, to really upgrade, energy efficiency, all of these things that will save cities money, that will provide for the residents. And now a lot of that is very uncertain. We want to use the direct credits to do geothermal and building a new police and fire public safety complex, $175 million that our taxpayers put in themselves. We want to do geothermal. We want to use direct credits to be able to get a credit against that from the federal government. It's unsure, is that still going to be there? And I'll mention that the direct credits are used in more Republican cities than they are in Democratic cities. I've got Republican mayor friends who are reaching out to their members of Congress to say, we understand the rhetoric of a campaign, but don't get rid of the direct credits, because red states and red cities are using that just as much, if not more, than the blue states and the blue cities. So I'm really hopeful that that stays, because we are putting that into our financial consideration for the 175 million, and having a geothermal to be able to power the building would be incredible. It would save us and save the taxpayers, save the residents money in the future for energy they don't have to pay. But again, it's all kind of it's very unsure right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty. There's been some discussion about removing the tax-exempt status of municipal bonds in order to pay for the tax cut. Do you have a sense as to what that would mean for Lansing? Oh,
devastating for all cities. And I don't understand how that would pay for the tax cut, because the reality is, you remove the municipal exemption, it's not like all of a sudden we're going to pay back more. We're just going to do less borrowing. Less borrowing means less projects. We're using that for borrowing, again, for our police and fire, police and public safety complex, for our performing arts center. We use municipal bonding because that's how you do projects. And if they remove that and it was 2 to 3% higher, it just means we would do less. We wouldn't pay more. And it's taxpayer dollars. These are they're trying to save taxpayer dollars, but they're using taxpayer dollars to save taxpayer dollars. That doesn't make any sense to me. And I am aggressively against it. The U.S. conference is aggressively against it. We have had long conversations about this. Our city council is about to pass something calling on our congressmen to oppose this. I think you're going to see a lot of fighting on that. But you were there, right? You know how important municipal bonding is to actually getting projects done for the citizens. So that would be devastating for everyone, for Lansing especially, because we would be able to do so much less.
Yeah, I agree. It's not as though all of a sudden everyone just pays more. There would be less projects, and that doesn't benefit anyone in the process.
Yeah, it doesn't pay for the tax cut.
Exactly. I mean, going back to being mayor, I mean, what's a day like? What's a week like? What would people be surprised to know about what it's like to be mayor of Lansing, Michigan?
And like all mayors, you ask that question for any mayor, and the answer is there is no day, no 2 days that are the same. Yesterday I was at the groundbreaking of a brand new city hall that Lansing has been trying to do for 30 years. The mayor from 20 years ago was there. He spoke about his work in the 1990s. That was yesterday. Today I'm having lunch with a pastor who's the head of my interfaith council. I'm doing a variety of work with some of our department directors. Tomorrow I might be visiting a park. I might do a ribbon cutting for a small business. I spend a lot of time. I am two different kinds of mayors. I am a strong mayor. So I am the CEO. I'm in charge of the administration. There are others that are mayors with city managers. I don't have a city manager. So I spend a lot of time making sure that our city is running correctly. I work with our council a lot. They hear from constituents, so we get complaints about different things. We spend a lot of time with our department directors. I'll tell any mayor what Mike Bloomberg told me when I first got elected, which is the most important thing you can do is have the best staff running your city. I get asked all the time, especially now that I'm in re-election, I get asked all the time, what's the one thing that you're working on? And my answer is, I got 13 department directors. So at any time, I'm working on 13 things, at least, all at the same time. Because if there's just one thing, then everything else is getting left behind. But I got someone working on our neighborhoods. I got someone working on our parks, someone working on our police, on our fire and EMT, on our social services. We got people working on all at the same time. And my day might be checking in with each of them to see, what's that decision that needs to be made? What's your recommendation? But that's okay, because it's very busy. And I tell everyone that it's very busy. Everybody wants the mayor to come to their event at night after work. And I have a wife and 2 kids. So you have to balance family with activity, and that can be very challenging. But it's very rewarding when you walk away and you see several buildings that are built, and you see folks that have been able to get financial empowerment education, and you see the growth of your city over your time there. That you were able to help people, and that makes it honorable, and that makes it very worthwhile.
I love it. Having been in politics for now half your life, can you talk? Has it changed a lot, or are people imagining that it's changed a lot? Is there nostalgia for the old days? How have you seen the way that we make decisions collectively change or not change since you first got involved?
I think it's changed different, but I think politics stays the same generally. We always think it is the worst now than it's ever been. I can tell you, when George W. Bush was president, we had Democrats saying, this is the worst president ever. Now we'd be like, oh, we welcome that guy back. I think it's just different. I've never seen with President Trump right now, folks with an allegiance to one person like we have now. I've never seen that. Even when you go back to Ronald Reagan, he still saw some folks who challenged him. When you look at Bill Clinton, he saw people challenge him even within his own party. I have not seen that before, but I'm a history guy, and I was reading a book about the early Civil War and when President Lincoln was elected. They used to have fights on the U.S. Senate floor. You got bullet marks where people were shooting, and they would hit each other, beat each other with canes. When people say, I want to go back to the old days of our forefathers, well, I don't know if it was so nice back then. I think there's always really good things that are done. When you look back on now, we'll look at the things that we were able to do. It's just different. It's crazy different. So I think that politics are always a tough game, and you have to have thick skin. I had protesters outside my house calling for me to defund the police, which I wouldn't do a few years ago. And that was hard. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But I ran for re-election and got 63% right after that. So you do the best you can do. You do what you think is right. And then you let the chips fall where they are. And I think it's always going to be very difficult. That's what it's all about. It's about being able to get things done through difficult times.
Yeah. I will say, last night I was reading this book about the 9 days of Lincoln traveling to the Capitol before he took the presidency. And one, you realize that things actually objectively have been far worse. And two, that leadership matters, right? Like at the end of the day, it took a few people doing the right thing and making some very difficult decisions to get us through. So it was sort of
they snuck him into the Capitol in order to avoid him being assassinated, and he took heat for that because he didn't just walk in. I love that. It was very interesting. I read a very similar book by Eric Larson, and it was fascinating.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We love having you as part of New Deal. Love having you to give us a real sense of what's going on in an important city and an important state as we navigate all these treacherous waters. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Come visit Lansing, Michigan. We'd love to have you here. But what an honor to be on this program. Again, I'm a fan. I listen. And it's a tremendous honor to be part of this. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
An Honorable Profession is a New Deal Leaders podcast. Thanks to the team at New Deal for producing this episode. We encourage you to bring honor to public service, and because we keep things honorable, no tax dollars are used in the making of this podcast.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group,